Hey, I'm Zeke.
And I'm Brian.
You're watching Two Guys Talking Home Buying.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us on today's episode of Two Guys. Our goal with this show is very simple. We want to help as many renters as possible to become homeowners. And you know what? Not just to become a homeowner, but to go through that buying process in a fun way. To do it in a way where you do not have a lot of stress. We don't want you to stress out over this, and it can get stressful if you let it. And then also, once you've got the keys to your new place, and you've got the house, and you've got this new loan, we want you to be able to look back and not have any regrets. So that's our goal with the show, and we cover everything in the show. There's 9 steps to buy a home. And we cover everything from early in the process, such as choosing a realtor or loan officer, or even deciding if you should buy now or wait, to the end of the process where you get your keys. And today what we're specifically going to cover is
Step 3 of the 9 steps of buying your first house, which is choosing a buyer's agent or doing it alone or going it alone. Hey everyone, I'm Zeke. I'm the social media director here at Showcase Agency, and I'm also looking to purchase my first piece of real estate this year. So I have a lot of questions, and I think this is going to be a great episode because Brian over here has been in the industry for such a long time. So I just hope to get them answered here today.
Yeah, very cool. And so I'm Brian. I'm the president and co-founder of Showcase Agency. We're a real estate company and mortgage company. So we help people to buy homes, sell homes. We also help them with the home financing. And I co-founded the company back in 2017 with my wife, Karen. She's been a licensed realtor since 2001. I've been a loan officer since 2005. So between the two of us, we've got 38 plus years of combined experience. And Zeke and I thought it would be fun. He's like he's mentioned, he's going to buy his first home soon, and he's had a lot of questions. And we were like, wow, let's get on camera and go through these questions, because I'm sure it would be helpful for other first-time home buyers. So if you're a first-time home buyer, hopefully you'll find all of this helpful. You may have similar questions as well. And also, too, we want to make sure you hang around to the end. We've got a couple of special offers for you. And we also have a really great viewer question. So we're going to dive into Zeke's questions here in just a sec. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about this topic, which is step number 3 of the 9 steps to buy your first home. And that step is choosing a buyer's agent or going it alone. So I just quickly wanted to explain what we meant by go it alone. So that makes sense to you, and then we can jump into your question. And what we mean by go it alone is if you don't have your own representation, if you don't have your own agent, then you're either going to be dealing directly with the seller, and that's the way it works with what's called a FSBO, F-S-B-O, and it stands for for sale by owner. And that's just simply where a person is selling their house without an agent. And so if you buy a house like that, you're either going to be dealing directly with the seller, or you're going to have to come out of pocket to pay a buyer's agent to help you. So that's what we mean by going it alone. In one case, that would be if you're working with the seller on a FSBO, for sale by owner. A second way that you would go it alone would be if you were actually dealing directly with the listing agent. So let's say that the person put the house up for sale and they did it using a real estate agent. Then if you didn't have your own agent, you would not be dealing directly with the seller. You'd be dealing with the listing agent. And that agent, it's important to understand that agent represents the the seller. That agent, the listing agent, their responsibility, their job is to sell the house for the most money. So that's what we mean by going it alone, and we'll get into more detail about going it alone, and then also what's important about a buyer's agent. And we're going to do that by jumping into your first question.
Awesome. So my first question is, Do you actually save any money if you do go it alone?
No, you don't, and it might actually cost you some money. And here's the reason, is that to have your own, well, I should back up. If you're buying a house that's for sale by owner, then there's no agents involved. So if you did want an agent, it would cost you money. Now, sometimes agents will charge like a flat fee to review the paperwork, to give you some advice, things like that, but they're not actually your agent. And then some agents will also represent you for a percentage of the transaction, and that would be out of pocket. So that's a for sale by owner. If you were going that route, you could actually save some money by not having an agent, but you would be putting a lot of the responsibility on yourself to make sure that everything goes right. Now, in a typical transaction, in a typical house that's up for sale, there's usually a listing agent involved. It's not going to cost you anything to have your own buyer's agent. And the reason is when a seller puts the house up for sale with a real estate agent, they're already agreeing to pay a commission to whatever agent brings the buyer. So, it typically doesn't cost you anything to have your own agent. And the exception to that, other than the FSBO that we just talked about, the exception to that would be sometimes, and this is pretty rare, but I felt like I should mention it, sometimes a buyer's agent will have you sign a little form, and basically that form says if they don't make a certain amount of commission from the seller, then they're going to charge you an additional commission. So but again, that's pretty rare. Most of the time, it's not going to cost you anything to have a buyer's agent. So to answer your question, if you're going with the for sale by owner, it's going to be cheaper for you if you do not have an agent, but then you're not going to have anybody, kind of guiding you along some of the important things. And then if you were buying from a house that's listed by an agent, it's likely not going to cost you anything. So you'd be better off to actually have your own agent.
Okay, awesome.
Does that answer?
Yeah.
Okay, it was kind of a long-winded answer, but it's a little different for a FSBO than it is for a for a house that's listed with a realtor.
Awesome, thank you for that.
Cool.
And then question number 2 is, how do I find the right agent?
Great question. So we recommend that you interview 3 agents, and the reason we say interview 3 agents is because just because somebody is licensed as a real estate agent unfortunately doesn't mean that they're going to do a great job for you. It's just like anything else, in any industry, there's always people that do a great job, and then there's always people that don't do a great job. So for something that's so important like this house and this big loan that you're going to get, it's really a smart move for you to talk to more than just one realtor. So you want to talk to them. You want to ask them, so for me personally, how long that person has had their license or been doing this isn't necessarily the most important part. I personally know of real estate agents that have had their license for less than a year, and honestly, they do a much, much better job than some people I know that have had their license for 2 decades. So it's not necessarily about how long the person has been doing this. A lot of it has to do with the important parts of the process that they're going to help you with, and are they in alignment with what you want to do. And so what I mean by that is, when can they show houses? If they can't show you homes at the times that you're available, if your schedules don't match, then that agent isn't going to be a good fit, because you're never going to be able to go see a house. The other thing is how is that agent going to handle the important parts of the contract and the negotiation? So when you go into contract, you may or may not have what's called contingencies in place. By default, they're in place, but if your realtor advises you to take them out, or if your realtor, checks the box that removes them, then you don't have contingencies. These are your safety nets for your earnest money deposit, the money that you put into escrow that, you could lose if you were to breach contract. So, so that's something that's important, is to find out how is the realtor that you're interviewing, how would they handle appraisal, not appraisal, but how would they handle contingency waivers? How do they handle contingency removals? So if you had a contingency in place, how did they handle the process of removing that contingency? Some people, so I'll give you an example. Some agents, buyer's agents, will just remove the contingency once it expires. But some agents won't remove the contingency once it expires because it's still in effect. So, so if the listing agent isn't asking you to remove it, then why remove it, right? Because that's your safety net. Why give that advantage to the seller? So asking the agent, how do they go about those contingency waivers, contingency removals? How do they go about what's their stance on like an escalation clause, which might be part of the offer that you make? How do they go about appraisal gaps? What do they advise for waiving the requirement for an appraisal? Do they advise that you get a home inspection? So these are the things that really, really, really put your earnest money at risk. So you want to find out about that stuff before you're in contract. How are they going to handle these situations? Requests for repairs, that's another good one. That one's kind of related to the home inspection. So those are the things that are more important to me than is that person, how long have they been doing it? Somebody that understands the market, understands you, really gets what you're looking for. They're honestly going to help you to find a home, and then once you find the home, they know how to help you get your offer accepted, because it's very competitive still. Even though rates have gone up, there's still a shortage of inventory, so there's still multiple offers on homes. So those are the things that to me are important. So when it comes to choosing an agent, I would talk to 3 agents. I would find out, how they approach those different things that I mentioned, and then also too, ask them, say, hey, would you be okay with showing me a few homes? I'm interested. I'm going to buy a house. I'm ready to start looking. I'm pre-approved to buy a house. Would you be okay showing me a few homes without me really making any kind of commitment to you? So that's the way I would go about it if I was looking for a realtor, and that's probably a very different kind of view than you would find in some of these other, like if you read an article about choosing a realtor or whatever. I don't even know if they'll talk about those things, but from the inside, knowing what happens really behind the scenes and having that perspective, that's what makes me give that advice on how to choose a realtor.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that.
Sure.
That's
sure.
awesome.
Great question.
Perfect. Thank you. Question number 3. Can I switch agents after, going with one?
Well, it depends. So some agents will require you to sign what's called a buyer's agency agreement, sometimes abbreviated as a BAA. So that's an exclusive agreement, and what it means is once you sign that, you're saying that you're not going to work with any other realtor. You're going to let that realtor that's on that contract be your exclusive agent. So you can't have any other agent. So if you sign something like that and then you want to switch agents, what you're going to need to do is have that contract canceled. If you don't cancel the contract and then you go out there and you let the listing agent write up your offer, or you let another buyer's agent write up your offer, and then you buy the house, you're going to be responsible for paying that first agent a commission out of your own pocket. So, because that's the contract. The contract says this is an exclusive agreement, exclusive agency between the buyer's agent and the buyer. And if the buyer breaks that contract and uses a different realtor, then the buyer is responsible to pay that first realtor. So if you sign one of those and you want to switch realtors, then you're going to need to get that contract canceled. I don't know how many realtors use a buyer's agency agreement. We don't use one here. We did in the past. At one point in time, we thought it was a good idea for us to do that, but we don't use one now, and a lot of agents don't use one. Now, this isn't the same thing as the agency agreement that you'll sign when you make an offer. So anytime you make an offer through a real estate agent, whether it's your own buyer's agent or it's a listing agent, the agent's going to write up the offer using all of the forms from the California Association of Realtors. And one of those forms is going to be an agency relationship form, but it's specific just for that transaction. It's not like an exclusive, if you don't get this house, you still got to work with me kind of thing. It's just for that particular property. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you're in a contract and you want to switch, get out of it. If you're not in a contract and you don't feel like you're being taken care of properly, you don't feel like this is a good fit, you don't have that legal, obligation. The only exception, I guess, the only exception would be if if a realtor has shown you a house, and then later on you want to change, and then later on you change realtors, but you still make an offer on that house. It doesn't work that way. The realtor that showed you the house is the one that is is your agent. Yeah. So you couldn't actually switch agents. Like if you got into escrow on a property, and then you wanted to switch agents, that wouldn't happen.
Awesome, perfect. And then that kind of answers my next question. Should I sign an exclusive contract to work with an agent?
It's up to you. It's up to you. If the agent requires it and you feel great about the agent, there's nothing wrong with that. If the agent requires it and you feel like they're just using that agreement to kind of trap you, that you don't feel like they're giving you a lot of value before you sign the contract, then you probably want to be skeptical of it. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. One of the reasons agents do it is they're like, wow, I'm going to put my time, my money, for gas. I'm going to give up my weekend showing somebody a home. I want to make sure that they stick with me, and that's the reason that they do the contract a lot of times. But for the buyer, the problem can be you've signed this contract, and now the agent isn't really performing up to whatever standards that you had, or whatever promises that they made, or commitments that they made. And if they're going to be that way in the early part, like when they're showing you homes or giving you advice before you go into contract, it's probably just going to get worse if you go into escrow and that's your agent. So it usually doesn't get any better.
Awesome, perfect. Thanks for that.
Cool.
Another question is, do you recommend doing it alone?
It depends. And here's exactly what we mean by going it alone, and I kind of touched on this earlier. One is if the house is for sale by owner. So if the house is for sale by owner, excuse me, if the house is for sale by owner, the number one reason why they're doing it that way is to save money. They don't want to pay the commission to the real estate brokerage, and the commissions are usually like 5 to 6%. So it's a hefty commission. That's not what the listing agent gets or the buyer's agent gets, but that's what the brokerages share. And then the brokerages pay their real estate agents, the listing agent, the buyer's agent. But the fees are 5 to 6% typically. So that's a lot of money on $600,000. That's $36,000 bucks, 6%. So with a for sale by owner, the number one objective from the seller is to avoid paying that commission. So if you want your own representation, you're gonna have to pay out of pocket yourself. And it's really, on one hand, and what you pay is probably going to be anywhere from like 1.5% up to maybe like 3%. Probably going to be around like 2.5%. So that's that's a pretty substantial amount of money. Let's say that let's say it's 2%. Let's say it's a $600,000 home. That's $12,000. So now you're coming out of pocket $12,000. Well, what are you going to get in return for that? If you're buying a house where you love the house, but you're really not sure about the condition, or that the condition of the house isn't great, but you don't know the extent. If you're not good at negotiating, if you don't like dealing with, these kind of things, if you're really worried about, something going wrong and you signed the wrong thing and now you don't have any recourse where you can't, go back to the seller and get, some money or some kind of, repayment of some sort for whatever went wrong. If you're not able to, if you're worried about those things, then it may be worth that extra money to get your own representation. And if there's pieces of that you're comfortable with doing on your own, but then there's some other pieces that you're not comfortable doing on your own, maybe just find a real estate agent that has like some a la carte services, and they'll, review the contract for you. They'll give you some guidance or whatever, but they aren't acting as your actual agent. There's agents that, do that. So that's the FSBO. So that's going it on your own. Do we recommend that you go it on your own? It's just going to depend, again, on those different situations when it comes to a FSBO. When it comes to a house that's listed on the multiple listing service, and we're starting in the beginning of the process, or near the beginning, when you're going to start touring homes, how are you going to see these homes? How are you going to see the inside of the homes? Well, you can either drop in open houses. That's one way. Open house, you probably know, is just where a house is up for sale and it's advertised. It's going to be open on Saturday from 1 to 4, and you can just walk in. Typically, there's an agent there, and when you come in, the agent can answer your questions, that kind of thing. But that's one way to see the inside of the house. The other way, if you don't have your own agent, would be for you to reach out to the listing agent. So you find the listing agent's information somewhere. If you're on something like Zillow, just be aware that all of these different sites, usually the listing agent's information is kind of buried, and then they make it look like these other agents are the listing agents, but they're not. They're just paying Zillow to get a lead, to get your name and your email and your phone number. So if you're looking specifically for the listing agent, you may have to dig around a little bit in the listing that you see online, and you can go directly to that listing agent. Now, the thing is it's not going to save you any money. It's, because the listing agent is still going to, they're actually going to make 2 commissions. So it's not going to save you any money. And the thing that I would be concerned about if I was using the listing agent is the listing agent's job is to get the most money for the house. And if I go to, let's say that the house is listed for $520, and a lot of stuff is going above asking price nowadays because, again, there's an inventory shortage and multiple offers and that kind of stuff. So let's say that a house is listed at $520, and you go to the listing agent and say, hey, I want to put in an offer. I want to put in an offer at $525. I'm going to go $5,000 above asking price, but don't tell the seller this, but I'm really willing to go up to $545. That person's job, that agent's job, is to get that $545,000 from you, not to get the $525. So there's definitely a conflict of interest there. It's kind of like if you were on trial, you wouldn't want the prosecutor to be your attorney. You would want to have your own defense attorney. So when it comes to buying a home, you really want to have your own representation. You want to have somebody that's on your side. You want to have somebody that you can confide in and let them know, hey, these are my true concerns, because you may be going into a transaction with a certain price, but you may have concerns about the condition of the property, and you can express those concerns to your buyer's agent and probably get a different kind of opinion or different type of guidance than you might get if you were discussing that with the listing agent, who, again, their job is to sell the house for the most money as fast as possible.
Yeah.
So when I go it alone, if I didn't know what I was doing, I do know what I'm doing, but if I didn't know what I was doing, I was just, buying my first house, and I was a consumer, and if it was FSBO, I'd have to think about it, because that's money coming out of my pocket. But if I was going to buy a house that's listed by a realtor, I would have my own buyer's agent, because like we talked about earlier, it's probably not going to cost you anything.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for answering
Yeah,
that.
sure.
Perfect. My next question is, what if my agent is too busy for me?
Okay, great question. So if your agent is too busy for you, you can confront the agent. I don't know if that's the best word, but talk to the agent. Say, hey, look, I don't feel like you got time for me, and the reason I say that is because this happened and this happened or whatever. And sometimes things happen, and maybe there was just like a little momentary lapse of client service. And maybe you guys can mend things. So if you feel like you should give that realtor a second chance, that would be the thing to do. Would be to talk to them and say, hey, I don't feel like I'm getting the service and the attention that I was expecting, or that I deserve, or that I want, whatever it is. So that's one way to go about it. If you don't feel like things are going to get any better, if it's just been awful, if it's just been terrible, then, and if you're not in a buyer's agency agreement, then, you can just let them know. You can send them a text, or you can call them. I think it's, good to let them know. Don't just like ghost them. Don't disappear. But then if you're in a buyer's agency agreement, technically the agreement is not between you and the realtor. The agreement is between you and the broker, real estate broker, that the realtor works for. So if you're not getting the service that you want from the realtor, and you're in a buyer's agency agreement, you've got to ask that agent to cancel the agreement. You need the cancellation in writing. And if the agent won't do it, if they give you a hard time, then the next step is to go to their broker and let the broker know that you want to be released from the contract. The broker is probably going to try to save the business. They're going to say, well, how about if we put you with a different agent in our office? Maybe that's a solution, or maybe you just want to get away from that office altogether. But that's the way to go about it.
Awesome. Thanks for
Does that
answering
make sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
All right.
Got a little pop-up question. Could there be some sort of fee to get out of that exclusive agreement contract?
That's probably a better question for Karen, but I don't think that there is. But
Okay.
I'm not 100% on that. Sorry about that. That's something that Karen would probably know. I can ask her, and then we can, put it on the graphic,
Awesome.
on the screen.
Perfect.
Great question, though.
Perfect. Thank you. My next question is, you talk about getting 3 quotes for the rates. Now, do you recommend interviewing 3 agents like you do recommend with getting 3?
Yeah, absolutely. And we touched on that a little bit earlier,
Mhm.
About the things to talk to them about. Again, I wouldn't get too concerned about, have they been doing this for a year or 5 years or 10 years? Are they the #1 realtor in the county or the city or whatever? I wouldn't get too concerned about any of that stuff, because it's not about them. It's not about how long they've been doing it. It's not about whether they're #1 or number 10 or number 100 out of, I think there's like 20 or 30,000 realtors in Orange County, LA
Wow.
County, or so. There's a bunch. So what I would focus, so yes, I would interview 3, because if you just go with the first person that you talk to, who knows how that goes. But if you talk to 3 people, you're going to have an idea who's the best fit for you. You're going to click with somebody. If and if you're asking the right questions, it's just a way to prevent you from ending up with somebody that's representing you on like the biggest purchase of your life. You're getting ready to go into this, huge loan, a longer commitment than renting, all these different things. And you want somebody on your side that's really on your side. They're not just in it to get a commission check. So, and also too, it's not that they just care about you. They also need to be competent. They need to understand the process. And so, asking the realtor those things we talked about earlier, how do you approach appraisal gaps, escalation clauses, contingency waivers, contingency removals, home inspections, requests for repairs. These are all things that put this house that you want, your dream home, these are the things that put your dream home at risk. They're also the things that put your earnest money at risk. So, what you want to do is you definitely want to, you may end up going with the first person you talk to, but you want to talk to 3. That way you've got a comparison. So we definitely recommend you talk to 3 realtors, and we definitely recommend you talk to 3 loan officers when it comes time to, choose someone for your home financing.
Awesome. Thank you for answering that. And then leading up to my next question is, how do I know if I'm working with an experienced realtor?
A great question, and again, to me, it goes back to those questions that I was just talking about. How is the person going to approach those things that we just covered? Escalation clause, appraisal gap, contingency waivers, removals, all those things. Those, again, are the things that are going to, how do they go about helping to get your offer accepted? Sometimes some agents don't know how to make the offer look better. They just submit the offer and they don't do anything else. But a lot of times the offer is going to need to have with it, your pre-approval letter, your proof of funds, your what's called a desktop underwriter. That's an automated underwriting approval. And depending on the situation and the other realtor, your realtor may need to reach out to that person, text or phone call or whatever. So there's different things. So, to me, it's not so much about whether or not that person is experienced. It's about, and by experienced, I mean they've been in the business a long time, or by experience meaning they've done, hundreds of transactions or whatever. What you want is you want somebody that really understands what you're looking for. They're able to help you get it, meaning, they're available to show you the houses when you're available to see the houses. They're not making a bunch of excuses about why they can't go out with you this Saturday and show you homes, or they can't go out with you this Sunday and show you homes. So you need somebody that's going to help you to get into the homes. You need somebody that knows how to help you get your offer accepted. And then, now that your offer is accepted and you've put your earnest money into escrow, how is that person going to protect you and make sure that you're not being taken advantage of and you're not ending up with something that you later regret? Or really, worse would be where you lose your earnest money. Because if you lose your earnest money, that means you also didn't get the house. So, that's the double whammy there. So for me, it's more than just experience. It's as far as like the number of years or the number of transactions. To me, it's more about, how is that person going to work with you individually when it comes to showing homes, getting your offer accepted, and then sticking with you through escrow so that, so that bad things don't happen to you. And when you get to the end, everything goes well and you get the keys.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
Sure.
And then I think that's all my questions.
All right, very cool. So hang around. We're going to do a viewer question here in just a second. But before we do that, check this out. We've got a couple of special offers for you. So just watch. Hey, it's Brian at Showcase Agency. If you're going to buy a home and you're thinking, man, I'm taking out this giant loan and making this huge commitment, and I just want to go with my best option, then we've got 2 great offers for you. The first is the beginner's guide to first-time home buying. If you're going to buy your first home, it takes 9 steps. 9 steps to go from renting to owning. This comprehensive guide covers all 9 steps in detail. You can download it for free at showcasefreeguide.com. The second offer is a discovery call with me or Karen. Either of us can answer every question you have about buying your first home, and we can direct you to additional resources we're sure you'll find helpful. There's no pressure, no sales pitch, there's no obligation or hassle. You can sign up at showcasecall.com. And just because it's another 6 months or a year before you're ready to buy, that doesn't mean you shouldn't be thinking about it now and planning ahead. Pick up our free guide for first-time homebuyers at showcasefreeguide.com and schedule a discovery call so we can go over your plans and timeline together. We can answer all of your questions, and we'll send you links to additional resources you'll find helpful. Go to showcasecall.com.
Thanks for watching that. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and let's get into our viewer question.
All right, let's hear it.
I need to repair my car. The bill is pricey, and I'm scared to fix it because we are in escrow. What should I do?
Okay, so you're in escrow, you're buying a house, you got to get your car fixed, or you're trying to figure out if you should get your car fixed because it's broken and you need it or whatever. So it's going to depend actually on a few things. If with the loan program that you're in, if you're already like maxed out at the debt to income ratio, and if you need to put these car repairs on a credit card, then I would say definitely do not do that. And the reason is because when you get near the end of the loan process, this is usually in step number 8 of the 9 steps, when you get to the end of the loan process, the lender is going to do a soft credit pull. So they're not looking to see if if your score went down. What they're checking for are 2 things. They're checking to see if you've had any credit inquiries. That means that you've let people pull your credit, and maybe you're trying to apply for credit, which means your debt to income could go up if you were granted that loan or that line of credit. And the other thing that they're looking for is they're looking to see if any of your balances have changed. If you've got a credit card on your credit report that when you went into escrow, it was a $500 balance, and you had, say, like a $15 or $25 monthly payment, and now all of a sudden you put $2,000 worth of repairs on there. Now your $500 balance is $2,500, and now your payment is in $100 or $200. So at that point, they're going to look at it and they're going to say, wow, now they're over the guidelines. So it's going to depend. So the first thing is, well, let me back up a second. If you can put it off, I would definitely put it off. But if you are close to maxing out your debt to income, absolutely put it off, even if you don't have a choice. So, you got to take an Uber to work, or you got to get somebody, you have to carpool with somebody or whatever. You definitely don't want to, run up a credit card bill, or, apply for a credit card or a loan or whatever to fix the stuff, because it's going to cost you the house. Now, the other thing would be if you're going to pay cash for the repairs. If you've got the extra money to pay cash for those repairs, and you still have enough money to be able to close, then you could just go ahead and pay cash for that. So it's kind of going to depend on whether or not you're maxed out at your debt to income, and whether or not you have any additional money to pay cash for those things. And something that's super important before you do anything would be to talk to your loan officer specifically. They're going to know your situation, they're going to know your credit, they're going to know how far along they are in this process and what's going to happen next, or they should. And so, talk with them and get their advice.
Perfect. Thank you for that.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. So, guys, we hope you enjoyed it. We hope you found this helpful if you're going to buy your first home. And if you want some help from us, if you want to chat, schedule a call with us, you can do it at showcasecall.com. And we also have a new home buying guide. You can get it for free at showcasefreeguide.com.
And also, if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them down below in the comments section. We'll be sure to answer them in one of our videos. And please subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on your post notifications to see when we upload next.
Yeah, so thanks for watching. We really, really appreciate it. We hope you found it helpful, and we'll see you next time.
See you.